Hey everybody, this is Rustin Rose. We are here live on Metal Nation Radio talking with Jason Ashcraft of Dire Peril and Helion Prime. How are you doing, my friend?
Doing good, man. Doing good. Getting over a cold, so if I sound stuffy, I apologize, but great to be here.
Well, we're glad to have you. Sorry you're feeling a little bit under the weather. At least you're somewhat healthy. We've lost so many people lately. Scott Weiland, Lemmy, Bowie, Alan Rickman, hell, Glenn Frey now.
I know, it's crazy. One every day. It's like unbelievable.
Anyhow, So when we talked the other day, I asked you, because I had just gone and seen the new Star Wars, what was your take on the new Star Wars?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. When I first came out of the movie theater, I wasn't sure how much I liked it, and I originally told my friends, like, I give a strong C+. The visuals were amazing, and it felt like you were watching Star Wars, unlike the prequels. But, the more I talked to people and thought about the movie more, I've definitely bumped it up to a B. It was definitely a really great return to form, and I'm excited to see the direction they take in the next episode.
See, and I sort of went the other direction. It's like when I was watching it, I was sort of excited and everything. And then as I'm driving home, I'm thinking, man, they took the same plot line, the same basic story, and just from the first movie and used it in this one,
Well, and that was kind of my big problem. Like, they even, call themselves out in the movie. I remember, my biggest, one of the things was, oh, really? Another Death Star? Like, they don't call it that. But, it's basically this time it's a giant planet instead of a space station. But, it's the same thing. And even in the movie, there's the one scene where Han Solo's like, oh, another Death Star? Like, no, this one's bigger. It's like, oh, okay. It's still a Death Star.
And then, of course, you spend the entire movie. If anybody hasn't seen it yet, cover your ears for the next 30 seconds or so. You're waiting for Mark Hamill the whole movie, and you get, 30 seconds of him standing on it. It looks like it's a commercial. He's like,
oh, it really did.
Tear in his eye.
A commercial for episode 8. That's how they ended it.
I want to know how much he got paid just to stand around, turn around, and look anguished like that.
I think my biggest disappointment was all the secrecy behind Luke Skywalker just for that. They made it seem, I was expecting more, I guess, because there's so much secrecy behind him. He wasn't in any trailers. I think, his hand was in a trailer and he spoke, But otherwise, he wasn't in a trailer, no posters. And I read somewhere Mark Hamill saying, if he let out any of the secrets, he wouldn't get paid. He could have very well been joking. But either way, there was so much secrecy behind Luke Skywalker for him to stand on a cliff.
So let's talk about music, though. That's why we're here. You are working on 2 debut releases for 2 bands, both sort of in the power metal realm, and both tied to science or science fiction. And I want to talk about both, but let's start with Dire Peril first, which was the first band I got turned on to, which sort of centers on your love of science fiction. So you released 3 EPs over the last few years using friends and special guests, but you're currently running an Indiegogo campaign. I believe you're over the 3/4 mark now. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, we're about 75%, which is really nice.
Yeah, so you're about to wrap up that for the debut full-length album, The Extraterrestrial Compendium, which also features John Yellen. Gotta love that. So give us the backstory that I haven't already covered on how you came to collaborate with John and everything on the new record.
Gotcha. Well, yeah, we have 3 EPs, and I really didn't want to do 3 EPs and just kind of work itself out like that. I mean, the 3 EPs should have been the first album, but things don't always work out as you want, and they somehow ended up becoming EPs. Anyways, moving forward after the 3rd EP, what it really came down to is I just really wasn't having fun anymore. I've been, for the last 2 years of Dire Peril, trying to keep it going, and what it really came down to is I wasn't enjoying it. I knew there needed to be a change. I wanted to go a different direction. I had guys playing with us live and stuff, and for a while there it was mostly just Norman and I, working together. And I was seeing an end goal, and I saw different things we wanted in the end, and I knew a change had to be made, and I felt the debut album was the best time to do that. So I have no hard feelings. I still think Norman's a great guy. This was nothing personal. It's just in my gut, I felt this was what needed to be done. And we had worked with John on the last EP, and he actually approached me when he heard the news saying he would have interest in singing for Dire Peril. And originally I wanted to find someone local and get Dire Peril a lot more busy. But when John approached me, I mean, the dude's such a fantastic singer, it's something I didn't really want to turn down. And then I started getting the involvement with Helion Prime, and that started picking up. So I was busy with that, so I saw that we could make it work with Dire Peril, and it could still be, its own thing. And even though John is in a different state, I still felt good about it. So I decided, yeah, let's do it, And it felt really good that he approached me with interest, So, because again, a singer as great as John, when he likes your music, I take that as a compliment.
I'm excited to hear what you guys are going to be doing on this album, because the Extraterrestrial Compendium is based around some of your favorite sci-fi films. How did you decide to go in that direction, and which were some of the first films that popped up for you?
Yeah, I started writing the songs for the new album, and Dire Peril has always been sci-fi themed. Not really. When I first started the band, like in high school, I came up with the name. We were actually vampire themed kind of stuff, but that was back in high school and all that. But then the band lay dormant for a while. But when I brought it back in 2012, I had definitely grown out of that and shifted more towards sci-fi. But that's a little funny thing that most people don't know back in high school. Anyways, getting off track there. Sorry. So I started writing the new songs, and I was like, oh man, I want to write a song about this movie. And then they say, no, it was this movie. And I was like, why don't I just do a whole themed album based on my favorite sci-fi films, because that's how I was looking anyways. And originally the plan was between albums to do a 5-song EP about sci-fi films. And I was like, no, fuck that. I'm not doing another EP. I cannot. The next release Dire Peril does has to be a full-length album, because we have too many goddamn EPs. So that's kind of how it first into that. Let's see. The first song I did was Planet Preservation, which is the single that John and I put out. So that was the first one I wrote, and that one is based off the movie The Day the Earth Stood Still. I guess that's technically the first one. Another one I wrote first is a song called The Visitor, which is based off the movie K-Pac with Kevin Spacey. So if you've seen that one, it's really, really cool film. I really enjoy it. And then, of course, Total Recall with Arnold Schwarzenegger's in there. And what's funny is there's so many cool Arnold films that are kind of in the sci-fi realm or dystopian realm, and there's so many of them I wanted to do. And then I'd always kind of be like, I should do a album based on Arnold films, but there's already 2 bands that do that, so I was like, I'm not touching that. So I just stuck the sci-fi route, and that's kind of how it came about.
And you've had some great guests on the EPs you've done in the past. Will that trend continue on the Extraterrestrial Compendium?
It will, and I don't want to give too much away. We have 2 guests who will appear on the album. We'll also be re-recording an old song from the EPs, and one of the guests, all I will say, is someone we've worked with before, and they'll be returning to work with us again, so I'm very excited about that. But that's all I'll say right now as far as the guests are concerned.
Fair enough. So I have to ask before we jump on to Helion Prime, I have this conversation with my stepson all the time because he's a big fan of the Alien versus Predator movies. If those two actually existed, which one do you think would actually win the fight?
Predator, easily, because, that's what they do, and if you're looking in the Alien versus Predator realm, by that logic, the aliens were bred by the predators to hunt. And, with the technology they have, with the advancements they have, and their intelligence, the aliens, the xenomorphs, are essentially just brainless animals that go off instinct,
Right.
And so I could be wrong there. I think in some of the movies it shows that they show intelligence and they learn, but is it they learn like a dog learns? Like, oh, don't do that again. Or, I don't really know. I am a fan of the Alien films, but I honestly never really dove too much into alien lore. So if someone looks at this as a huge fan of aliens and everything I'm saying is wrong, I apologize. But from what I have seen, I would go with Predator hands down.
All right, so let's talk Helion Prime, your other band. Tell us a little bit about the backstory on Helion Prime, because I believe you put it together with your better half, as I'll call her, Heather Michelle. And you guys released sort of a debut EP almost a year ago, The Drake Equation. Tell us a little bit about the band and that first EP.
Yeah, so Helion Prime came about, I didn't really know what I wanted to do at first, but I knew I wanted to kind of try something different outside of Dire Peril and basically, grow my writing style, but the stuff I was doing, wouldn't really fit in Dire Peril. And so I wrote some songs, and we got talking, and at first we're like, hey, let's do a studio project together and write some songs. And she was on board with it, and we started writing a bunch of songs, and eventually, next thing you knew, we had a full album, and, we were like, wow, we really like what we're writing. And it grew from a studio project to more for both of us. We're really proud of what we did. So we kind of got some guys together. Our buddy Jeremy came in on bass, our buddy Justin on drums, and we started writing the album. And it's gotten really great response. I mean, since we've released the first EP in last February, people have kind of noticed. And then, after that, we released that when it was still just Heather and I, and it was a couple months after that we got guys on. So I like to think really we haven't been a full functioning band for more than a year, and already the attention we're getting is not bad. So I'm excited to see what people think when the album actually comes out, and hopefully they'll enjoy it as much as we do.
Well, as you said, Dire Peril's more about your love of science fiction. Helion Prime is actually more about science itself, right? What is the Drake equation?
Exactly. So Dire Peril is, full-on sci-fi, and we'll probably shift later on into a more concept theme where we write our own sci-fi stories and all that. But Helion Prime, we thought a cool idea would be singing about science facts, So the Drake equation is an equation that, what's the right word? So not predicts, but the Drake equation is the equation that helps to understand the possibility of life in our universe. So takes in many factors that life would need to survive and, basically breaks it down and shows the possibility of alien life out there in our universe.
So the Drake equation is either the absence of everybody in Washington, D.C., or the fact that everybody in Washington, D.C. is an alien, is what you're saying.
Yeah, something like that.
All right. So, yeah, as you said, Helion Prime is no longer a duo, full-fledged band now. You guys... on your Bandcamp page, you're taking pre-sales for the album, which comes out in February, right?
Correct.
Okay, and what's the title of the album? Is it just self-titled or
just self-titled? We bounced around a few titles. None of them are really sticking with us, and we're like, let's just do self-titled. We really like the name Helion Prime, and the album cover we just absolutely love, and we thought that stood strong on its own. So we decided no title this time.
So. Full band now, as we said, but you do have some great guests on this. You got like Jeff Teets from Mind Maze, Josh Schwartz from A Sound of Thunder, quite a few names. How did you end up connecting with all those players?
Well, most of them I am personal friends with, and we're all part of this group on Facebook called the U.S. Power Metal Connection, and I kind of just, I'm a rhythm guitarist, and I couldn't do a good solo to save my life, so I knew when recording the album, I would need some really kick-ass solos to match the quality of the music, and I wasn't going to be able to produce that. So I just kind of wrote a post like, hey, I'm looking for a few guys who would be interested in doing some solos for the Helion Prime album, let me know. And a bunch of people responded. I couldn't even use everybody who responded because more people responded than I had songs for. So I just kind of went with the first, kind of first come, first serve. People who responded to me. It didn't mean to turn out this way, but it eventually ended up where every guy was on a different song. My buddy Taylor Washington probably did the most. He appears on like 3 songs, but I believe everyone else just is on 1 track. But it turned out really cool. It's really cool for me to hear all these awesome guitarists put their kind of spin on my music, and really made it that much better. Like we have this song, Ocean of Time, where the guys Matt and Ryan from this New York band, Shadow Strike, they did a guitar keyboard duel, and I wasn't expecting that, because I was only asking for guitar solos, so I wasn't expecting keys, and it just blew me away, and it added so much more to the song, and I feel it made the song 10 times better, So that was really cool. That's a highlight for me for sure. And yeah, Jeff Teets and Mind Maze, his solo blows me away, and people can hear that because that's the new track we put out, Into the Black Hole.
Right.
Really, really great stuff. All of them did an amazing job.
Absolutely. The record is fantastic. I'm looking forward to everybody being able to get their ears on it. So definitely, if you're listening and this sounds like your sort of thing, we're going to play into the black hole here. Go out there and pre-order that album on their Bandcamp page. I'll throw the link up on the website. So before we get out of here, just for fun, we talked about this a little bit before. Give us 3 TV series people really need to be binge watching.
All right. Yeah. I know one of my personal favorites. This might not be what many people expect because it's nowhere near Sci-Fi, but I'm a big My Name is Earl fan. You know, it's a fantastic show. And honestly, I would go with Doctor Who. Now, I know that's really popular. Most people are probably watching it, and I haven't watched it in a while. Season 7 was kind of a bummer to me. I haven't seen any of the new stuff, but some of the older stuff, like the writing to me is just incredible. And the stories and all that. And so it's a really good show if you're a fan of science fiction, you know. And then also one of my all-time favorites is Futurama cartoon. And again, it's one that most people have probably seen. So, and I'm not really up on, you know, the newer shows. So unfortunately I can't say what a great new show is because I have Netflix and that's all I kind of go off of. So anything that's new and hot right now, I don't really know what it is.
Yeah, well, I think, as a matter of fact, when we talked, I mentioned to you you should definitely check out that Sense 8 program. You might get a kick out of it with your love of sci-fi and science and everything. But, okay, so our last question before we get out of here then. To help get to know you a little bit better, give us 3 albums that were sort of pivotal in your development as a musician.
Well, the first album that, you know, I used to be a country boy as well in my younger days. The first album that put me on the path of metal was the Metallica Black Album. My dad had that on a cassette, and I remember just hearing the name when I was a kid, and I kind of put the cassette in, and as for most, Metallica's that gateway drug into metal, you know, and so I got into that, you know, Rockin' in a Sandman, and Sad But True, and then I went on, you know, next few years was nothing but Metallica and AC/DC for me, and then, I don't know, I was maybe 11 or 12, a buddy showed me Ice Earth's Alive in Athens, and that's what really led me on the path to power metal. He showed me that. I was like, holy shit, you know, what is this? And so Ice Earth became my new favorite band, and they've sort of remained my favorite band through the years. Lately, there have definitely been artists in the past few years who have come along who really sparked new inspiration for me more than Ice Earth has. And, you know, I hate to say that. I feel like I'm betraying my favorite band, but so you got Metallica's Black Album, Ice Earth, Alive in Athens. Those 2 really started it for me. But as far as lately, honestly, like in 2012, I got into Helion and everything Ari and Anthony Lucasen does, and that guy just blows me away. He is now my top inspiration for music. Like, I absolutely love everything the guy does. I don't think he has one bad album. And his newest release for Helion, The Theory of Everything, is hands down, in my opinion, one of the greatest albums ever made. So those 3 albums would probably be it for me.
Awesome. Jason Ashcraft of Helion Prime and Dire Peril. We've got 2 albums coming out. Helion Prime coming out in February. Dire Peril's The Extraterrestrial Compendium. When can we expect that one?
I don't want to give an actual date yet because we did that with Helion Prime and we are months behind on schedule. But if all goes as planned, I'm hoping for around June, July. But do not quote me on that because I will not really know until we kind of finish the recording process and see how that goes. We're recording right now, you know, but things can happen.
Nice. So we get 2 albums from you this year at some point anyway, so we can look forward to both. Thank you so much for taking some time to talk with us. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. We'll talk with you soon, my friend.
Yeah.